I'm Donna, and these are a couple of my assistive devices du jour. They vary depending on the day. But my mission is actually to put people in wheelchairs. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight, and a little bit about accessibility. So first, what is accessibility? It's not all about apps or ramps. Those are both great things. However, having a ramp doesn't necessarily make you accessible. So accessibility is actually about barrier-free access to goods, services, and spaces. Boiled down, it's about the ability to go out and buy my own toothpaste independently and with dignity. So how did I get into the accessibility field aside from the obvious? I was waiting for a plane once, and when they called the pre-boarding announcement, the flight attendant came over and without a word, immediately grabbed my chair and started pushing me toward the gate, away from my son. So if I wasn't in a wheelchair and somebody came up and just started pushing me, that could be considered assault. And I know she meant well and thought she was helping. So I realized then that most barriers to access don't exist as a result of malice. Even attitudinal barriers, like she so perfectly demonstrated for us, exist usually just as a lack of awareness. So really, the key to increasing accessibility and removing barriers to access is improving awareness about accessibility. So on the plane ride home, I wrote my business plan for putting people in wheelchairs and spreading accessibility awareness. But first, I had to figure out the best way to go about spreading awareness. What's the best way to convey to people what it's like to actually be in a wheelchair? So the best way to do it is to actually involve the people, put them in the wheelchair. For example, I can tell you that the slope on your ramp should not exceed 5%, and I can tell you that to get that percentage, you take the ratio of the run divided by the rise between 2 points, or I can put you in my wheelchair at the bottom of a too steep ramp. Which one are you going to remember more? So it's amazing how your perspective is changed when you lower your outlook just a few feet in a wheelchair. And I'm not talking about all the talking to crotches and looking up nostrils that I end up doing. But it's actually amazing how fast awareness is changed when you spend a little time rolling a mile in somebody else's chair. So Beth, these next slides, I promise I did not purchase any of the items, I just took the pictures. So you'll see here the difference in, they'll pop up, the difference. One, you can see the entire store, the layout and everything there, and the second, from the chair, you see pants. So you've probably also all seen those little orange flags that they have attached to the back of scooters and wheelchairs. Probably think those are safety items, right? They're actually location devices, so they can find us when we get lost in the maze of racks and displays out there. They send a little blue vest out at the end of the night just to make sure there's no little orange flags roaming around. But I truly believe that everybody can benefit from a little bit of time spent in a wheelchair. Business owners, for example, should take a tour of their facility from a wheelchair. It gives an entirely new outlook on the actual accessibility of your business. Start in the parking lot and see if you can even get in. Once you're inside, have a look around. Can you reach all of the products? Can you even see all of the products? How can you maneuver? Are your aisles wide and clear? Can you get around? When it's time to cash out, can you reach the debit machine, or is it secured to the cashier's counter somewhere up here? How do other people perceive you? Do they look at your feet first or your face? Do they talk to you or whoever you might be with? So tonight I'd like to invite everybody here to roll a day in your own life, and don't worry, you don't have to actually put your butt in a wheelchair, just your brain. Pick a day, and as you go about your daily routine and activities, imagine just for a second that you're doing it from a wheelchair. What accommodations would you have to make? What changes? We'll assume your house is accessible, but what about the houses of your friends and family? What about the restaurants and stores you visit frequently? Are they actually accessible? Your workplace. Again, we'll assume your workplace is accessible, but what about all the other duties you have to do? Do you have to attend meetings that are outside of your workplace, or go to networking events and, God forbid, mingle? It's hard in a wheelchair getting around and mingling. So there's actually a lot of signs out there that say no wheelchairs allowed. They're just really hard to discover. So I challenge all of you to take our Roll a Day challenge and see how many of those invisible no wheelchair allowed signs you can find. And obviously, a few minutes spent rolling a mile in somebody else's chair is only a small representation of what people who use wheelchairs go through on their daily basis in their lives. But it goes a long way towards raising awareness, and any awareness is good. I also find accessibility is a lot like buying a new car. When you go out and purchase a new car, all of a sudden you're aware of all the other same model cars out there on the road with you. Accessibility is the same. When you start to realize and recognize barriers to access, you'd be amazed at how frequently you can actually see them and encounter them. So finally tonight, I have a quick little contest. After all of the speakers are done, the first person who can bring me a tube of toothpaste with proof of purchase gets this $50. The only caveat is you have to take my wheelchair. So I thank you all very much for rolling a mile with me tonight.